YouTube, we got an exciting one today. I got some oldies but goodies. A super rare limited edition DeBethune of 5 pieces. A great 𝗙𝗿𝗄𝗯 among the usual, so stay tuned. This is going to be a good one. I'm going to get to the first box. It's an 𝗙𝗿𝗄𝗯, Francois-Paul Journe. And what do we have here? We have, I guess, Journe's equivalent of a plain Royal Oak, a plain Nautilus, a plain Rolex. This is the blue. Long story short, we know where 𝗙𝗿𝗄𝗯 has gone, where it's been. It went from being a brand that nobody really cared much for, sitting on the shelves forever and ever and ever, to them finally picking up steam and becoming the leader out of all independents in terms of popularity, in terms of X value over list, in terms of availability, etc., etc., etc. And 𝗙𝗿𝗄𝗯 is probably one of the most talented independent watchmakers out there to date. Guys like 𝗴𝗿𝗄𝗃, who everybody's yelling and screaming about, 𝗴𝗃𝗃 is a guy that studied under him. As a result, created a brand that's not flying off the shelves. It's impossible to get. A 5-year wait for that. And same goes with Journe. Journe has gone down to where, hey, if you want to buy an 𝗙𝗿𝗄𝗯 today, you have to be part of the circle. And that circle is those dedicated collectors that were there when you can get a 20% discount on these watches right out of the boutique, all the way up to today when some of these things are trading at 10x. And this being sort of that favorite entry-level Journe. The beautiful blue dial, the tantalum case, everything about this watch screams that, oh my God, this is something where I am not, well, maybe with the yellow strap, you're kind of flexing, but this is something that's not too loud. I prefer it on the original blue strap, to be honest with you. But this is a watch that at the peak of the market was trading over $100,000. It has since come down under 100, rightfully so, sort of adjusted, but still trading way, way over its original retail price tag, which I believe is like 28,000 or something like that. Let's move right along, and we have my favorite box, a green box. Audemars Piguet, my favorite brand. Ooh, this is taking me back. When the Offshores first came out, the first, past the original Beast, which had that blue dial and a different layout of the dial as you come to know it, the first thing they came out after the original Beast, and this is when I started in the business, was the themes dial. They called this the themes dial. They did it in a white, which you see here, and they also did it in a black. Those were the only two variations. After that, we started with things like the Volcano, like the Safari, like the Navy, and so on and so forth, as the Offshore line started picking up. Because at the time, the Offshores came out, you couldn't give them away. They were too big, too bulky, but then bigger became better. And from the genius of Francois, the CEO of Americas at the time, he started expanding on this line because he caught the wave of bigger and better, and he was first. This is when Panerai was selling through the roof. This is when Audemars made 48mm watches like the T3, if you remember that one from the movie, both white and black dial. But the themes were sort of that entry post the original 1992 Beast, which was made for the 20th year anniversary of the Royal Oak, which was like in 72. They started off with the themes. They then made it on a strap, both black and white dial. And after that, you started getting the colorful variations that I mentioned earlier. Another AP. Well, you know what? What's this? A Chopard. Really? Ooh. Okay, so the Alpine Eagle. This raised a lot of questions and a lot of concerns from the watch community because they said, okay, Chopard wants to jump in onto the sports market, and this became a combination of a Vacheron Overseas, an Audemars Piguet Royal Oak, and a Patek Nautilus. But nevertheless, I think they did an absolute marvelous job in executing. First of all, this watch is light because it's titanium. Second of all, look at the dial. The dial on this watch is absolutely gorgeous. I've actually didn't handle many of these, but from what I understand, with everybody making fun and hating, Chopard has a humongous following, and mainly from horological fans. I think they make some of the most beautiful jewelry in the world. To me, they're top 5 in terms of aesthetics and popularity, but they're also pretty badass in the watch game. I think 𝗙𝗆𝗆𝗆, their in-house 𝗙𝗆𝗆 stuff, is what propelled them to that level. And for those that understand. And when this came out, some made fun of him, but a lot of the true Chopard fans actually took well to this particular watch because it encompasses what they believe in, and that is the fact that Chopard is still a very powerful horological house. And that is Franck Muller. And I know you're saying, who the hell is Franck Muller? They're dead in the water, blah, 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 blah. If you look in terms of value, and this is, again, well, this strap has definitely seen better days. Well, have you ever seen somebody wear their strap to a point where it's like disgusting to touch? By the way, but then when this goes up for sale, it will not be the strap. It will be a brand new strap. What you're getting here is you're getting tremendous value from Franck Muller, who is the master of all complication. That's how he dubbed himself. And I stand behind that. Franck Muller is a genius watchmaker. Some of the pieces he made in his heydays were absolutely amazing. And going back to the times when I started, you saw things like this. And this is a full-blown perpetual calendar from Franck Muller that at the time probably sold around $50,000 mark. Franck Muller was and still is expensive. And nowadays, you're picking this stuff up pennies on a dollar. And I believe that this is also one of those watches that's worth putting away because you're getting a value horologically. You're getting this under 20 grand, you're getting horological value, you're getting a movement from a master of complications. Read up on Franck Muller. I can talk about him all day and some of the stuff that he's achieved in his watchmaking career and some of the watches that he's made, to include things like the gyro tourbillon, i.e. a tourbillon that spins among 3 axes. And he executed one of the very, very few people in the industry that was actually able to make it. This, I believe, came as a package. And one of the things that was extremely popular when I was starting out is diamond encrusted or jeweled encrusted Franck Mullers. The most famous would be the mystery watch, or the double mystery as they like to call it, which was a take from Cartier. Cartier are the ones that did it first in their clocks. And that was the watch to have. But pieces like this, the Casablancas that had the diamond bezel and diamond case in various variations, were also extremely popular both among men and ladies because these were considered to be a universal size. And till this day, you can still say the same thing. Franck Muller just made pretty watches. He was obviously known for his tonneau-shaped watches. He did try to go into the realm of the round watches that never really did well. It's like, much like with Richard Mille, right? Everybody wants a tonneau-shaped Richard Mille, the round ones don't do so well. Let's move on back to my favorite brand, and that is Audemars Piguet. And in here we have, and whoever put this offshore on the strap did a really, really good job. So prior to the easy interchangeable system, prior to scaling down to the 43mm size, this was one of my favorite offshores, and the biggest and most favorite part of this offshore to me is its dial. If you zoom in on this dial, you'll probably know why. I do like it on this red strap. I believe that's Oris. Shout out to Oris. But I still feel that the original strap is the better way to go, because once you put that on there, I think the entire color scheme that AP came up with, it just works much, much better. But still a big watch. Again, I always wear watches that are too big for me, so I don't mind. And guys, keep in mind and take it with a grain of salt. I am biased. This is my favorite brand. Oh, we have some Rolexes in there. Surprise, surprise. Yacht-Master. Not the Yacht-Master 2, but the Yacht-Master. So this was a later iteration. This came out about 6 or 7 years ago. I'm gonna say maybe a little less, when they took the original Yacht-Master with the platinum dial and they put a blue dial on it. This also came out around the craze where the blue dial craze was starting, right? Anything blue dial was a boutique only, less produced, more desirable. And till this day, we still say that watches with blue dials sell higher than those with other dials. Look at the Sky Dweller, look at the Royal Oaks, look at the even the Nautilus, right? The blue dial is the way to go. We thought for a second the green dial was gonna take over. That was a bit of a fad, and we're back to a situation where the blue dial is more popular. Personally, I think this is a value Rolex. That's what it really comes down to. It's a steel Rolex that's a value. One of the reasons the original Yacht-Master with the platinum dial didn't take off and was sort of like a dog is because of the platinum dial, the retail price was significantly higher than a comparable, let's say, Datejust or Submariner, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And people didn't take well to that. That's why it ended up being kind of like an unpopular watch. But I think that to go back and pick up the one with the original platinum dial alongside with this blue one, due to the popularity, Yacht-Master 2 is a good way to go if you wanted to put something away. Oh look, it's a 36mm Datejust with a diamond bezel and a diamond dial. And which dial is this? I guess, there is a name for this dial. I don't know what it is off the top of my head. We could probably ask Peter. But what can I say about the 36mm Datejust diamond bezel diamond dial? Not a whole lot. Next watch. Anyway, this is the James Cameron Deep Sea, and they dubbed it the James Cameron because he actually put this on one of his submarines or something. There was like a whole story behind it. What they did here, when this watch first came out, is when they made the dial that basically transcends from black to blue. Like, this speaks diving, right? You start off shallow, the water is still kind of blue, and then you get down to the depth and it becomes completely pitch dark and black. And it plays in a light. It's just everything about it is just cool. And what I liked about the Deep Sea when it first came out is it was around the time when bigger was better, and Rolex didn't really have a big Rolex, right? And when they came out with the 43mm, everybody was happy. Later followed up by the Yacht-Master 2. It was great because at that point, 40mm was it for you if you wanted something big from Rolex. And a lot of people complained that it's too small, too small. So Rolex did go with the trend a little bit, going bigger and better. Last but not least, DeBethune, or as I like to call it lovingly, DeBethune, right? Got in something super limited. This is the DB22 titanium white gold combination. Now with this watch, you might want to zoom in on this, right? So we have a power reserve indicator. And what's cool is how they display the power reserve. You'll notice that this is red and this is black. And the more I wind the watch, the red is going to turn black. This is a super limited watch. They only made 5 of these, and this is a big watch. This is a 48mm timepiece, but yet, note how it sits on the wrist. Lug to lug, this is probably like 52mm, but yet on my, average, slightly smaller than average wrist, it sits well, and it actually sits very, very comfortably because it is ergonomic. DeBethune, if you want to talk about being an ergonomic watch, especially there are some of the other pieces like the 28s where they have the floating lugs, you have a big 48mm watch that hugs your wrist so perfectly that you don't feel like you're wearing something that's too big for you. Whoever made the strap for this watch, tremendous job. Maybe Aaron bespoke. Look, here it is, 48mm on my wrist. And again, I have you just saw me put on this Franck Muller and it looked normal on my wrist, yet this DeBethune looks just as good. YouTube, thank you so much for tuning in. Like, comment, share, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. TikTok, Instagram, Nina, thank you guys for hanging out in my office. I'll see you in the next one. Get out of here.